All right. So that takes us to, thank you for everyone's patience. These calendars can be a bit dynamic. Mr. Weatherhead against Mr. Sauerbrei. Sauerbrei. I'm sorry. That all kinds of wrong. All right. So what I'm going to do before I turn it over to you folks is I want to go over a couple of things first. And first things first is, so there's been allegations of unlawful harassment by Mr. Weatherhead against Mr. Sauerbrei. Sauerbrei? I got it wrong. Sauerbrei. Sauerbrei. Sauerbrei.
Who cares if you have it right?
Last time I'll get it wrong. Sauerbrei. All right.
Sauerbrei.
So what I like to start these.
This is Zach's fault. This is what happens when these trials happen, and then Zach's still sending me stuff.
Hearings with is sort of explaining that the words harassment and stalking.
Thank you, LawNerdsUnite.
Stalking, as you all may have kind of witnessed. There's some common understandings of what this means, what it means to be harassed, what it means to be stalked, that people use in everyday parlance. And that is all often very different from the legal definition of unlawful harassment and unlawful stalking. So what I like to do to start these hearings is go over the legal definition of unlawful harassment, because when I hear testimony and I ask questions, and when I go through the exhibits and what's been filed, which I've gone through everything from both sides, is what I'm looking for is whether or not the petitioner, so Mr. Weatherhead in this case, has proved more likely than not that there has been unlawful harassment, meaning that all of these elements, there's 6 elements, that every one of them has been met. So I'm going to go over those elements now because I want folks to understand that when I'm listening to your testimony, when I'm asking questions, these are the 6 things that I'm looking for. So unlawful harassment is, number 1, a knowing and willful course of conduct. Number 2, directed at a specific person. Number 3, without a lawful or legitimate purpose. Number 4, that appears designed to alarm, annoy, or harass the petitioner. Number 5, that would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress. And 6, and that actually does cause the petitioner to suffer substantial emotional distress. So those are the 6 elements, and those are things I'm going to keep coming back to. There's a couple of these that I like to go into a little bit more detail because that's where a lot of cases tend to get sort of caught in the weeds. The first is the first element, knowing and willful course of conduct. Course of conduct means there's been a pattern of behavior evidencing continuity of purpose. So it's not one single incident. In very limited circumstances form the basis of anti-harassment. What we are generally looking for is an ongoing pattern of behavior that persists despite someone being told to stop. So that's what we're looking for. The next one is directed at a specific person. I think you all are sort of witnessed that a lot of times petitioners and respondents will talk about things being done to other people, aren't parties to the petition. And again, that's relevant only if other people are being used to contact someone who is being protected or something of that nature. So we're looking at, and this is, I think, particular in this case too, that's why I raise it, is so we're looking at harassment directed at a specific person. Number 3, without lawful or legitimate purpose. Again, this is something that I want to focus on for this particular case. Some things we look at in whether or not the contact was lawful or legitimate is whether someone is unreasonably interfering with the petitioner's privacy or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive living environment for the petitioner. And I raise this here because this is not a forum for resolving land use disputes. And so, Mr. Weatherhead, one thing that I'll be looking for from you in particular is is the difference between harassment on property versus a dispute over whether or not representatives of HOA are able to come onto certain parts of the property, whether there is even the existence of particular easements, what the rules are for those easements, because the contact needs to be without a legitimate purpose. And so one thing we don't use the anti-harassment or docket to do is resolve land use disputes. And this is particularly true when we have issues between neighbors who are disputing property rights and who can go where and easements and things of that nature. That gets resolved through property type actions over in Superior Court. I know that's not the only much. That's part of the question that I've got for you, just so you know. So again, these are the things that we look for in unlawful harassment. So I'll back to these definitions. I'll be going back to these elements because each one of these needs to be shown as more likely than not in order for an order to issue. So that's the legal stuff that I like to get out of the way early. A couple of housekeeping things. These hearings can get pretty heated. I find it's get even more heated, particularly when if someone is on Zoom, because then you're not really face to face, and sometimes it's a bit easy to get caught up saying. Direct all comments to me, to the court. Don't address each other. And all comments come to me. If folks start talking to each other, that's when I start cutting people off. So address everything to me, and also know that you'll get your turn. Again, you've seen at least one hearing already. I do try to let people go back and forth a bit, so as allegations are raised, so I can respond to that, things of that nature. So I do that in part so that people know if you start hearing things that you don't like, just recognize, we're not going to go forever, but you will have a chance to respond. So keep that in mind as well.
Trial by combat now.
Last thing before I start taking testimony is the protection order statute contemplates that decisions are made primarily based on the sworn declarations and what's been provided in the court file. So I've read everything. I've read the petition. I've read everyone's exhibits. Before I take testimony, I'm gonna go over my review of the record, just so everyone are able to see where I'm coming from, and you can kind of go from there. And then my approach to taking testimony is not to have somebody essentially give a speech about their position. It's conversational. I ask questions that help me get to an answer. Obviously, if you have stuff you'd like to say, you're welcome to, but it's really an opportunity for me to ask questions and learn a little about what's going on here, and to align what I think is going on here with what's required under the statute. So with all that said, I'll take testimony from Mr. Weatherhead, Mr. Sauerbry, and then we'll go from there. Before I do that, what I want to do is go over the timeline as I've reviewed it from the docket. And that way, again, both of you can see where I'm coming from. And you can correct me if I get it wrong or fill in the gaps. So Mr. Weatherhead is arguing unlawful harassment based on roughly the following timeline. In my understanding, again, Mr. Weatherhead owns property that is within this homeowners association. And on September 20th, I think is the earliest date that I've got, there's a allegation that Mr. Sauerbry came onto Mr. Weatherhead's property. Mr. Weatherhead texted Mr. Sauerbry saying you're trespassing. And Mr. Sauerbry replied essentially that seems like a disagreement over where, again, the property line is, where the HOA can go for HOA business. There's some allegations from the HOA. It sounds like that Mr. Weatherhead was in possession of HOA property and equipment, and that Mr. Sauerbry, as a representative of the HOA, was there on HOA business. So that's September 20th. November 6th, Again, there's allegation from Mr. Weatherhead that Mr. Sauerbry is on his property and spray painting. As a response, Mr. Sauerbry indicates that there's an ongoing dispute regarding the existence of an easement at the end of Starflower Lane, or existence or scope of an easement at the end of Starflower Lane, and that he was there measuring a way to identify the easement. Mr. Sauerbry indicates Mr. Weatherhead may be violating some CCRs with respect to that easement as part of the HOA. So that's November 6th. February 19th, Mr. Sauerbry sends Mr. Weatherhead regarding it on February 25th to address some alleged CCR violations. Mr. Weatherhead requests more time. That request is denied. Then on that day, February 25th, Mr. Sauerbry, as I believe two of the witnesses here, Ted Weiss and Ariel McClendon, go on to, I guess at least what's alleged to be Mr. Weatherhead's property, and there's a confrontation there between those three folks from the HOA, and not Mr. Weatherhead, but Mr. Weatherhead's fiance, Lindsay Silling, and his father, Neil Weatherhead Sr., I suppose. And the HOA folks were told to leave. It seems like there was a bit of a confrontation. This is where Mr. Weatherhead alleges that Mr. Sauerbry brandished a weapon and put his father and fiance in fear. Mr. Sauerbry denies that and shed a little bit more light on the confrontation, essentially saying that they announced, they being the HOA representatives, announced to Lindsay and Neil Sr. That they were there on HOA business. There was an argument. They were left when they were asked to. There was some difficulty in turning around, but that they did try to leave, and that I think Miss indicated that she felt sort of herself in that situation, and that being the last instance that I've got noticed. So that's where I'm at, and so with that in mind, that's the roadmap here. I'll now swear in the parties and go from there. So, Mr. Weatherhead, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give and the whole truth?
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I'm seeking anti-harassment protection order on Mr. Sauerbry and his proxies based on the pattern of unwanted entry onto my property that you've already stated, the refusal to leave when asked to do so, and as you already mentioned, the conduct that I reasonably perceived to be intimidation, including the presence of the firearm by Mr. Sauerbry and the statement that he was there for intimidation. I want to be clear, I'm not asking the court to resolve the HOA dispute regarding the property and road maintenance. I'm simply here to seek this anti-harassment order as my counsel prepares for a civil case to be heard by Superior Court. And the fact that Mr. Sauerbry continues to enter my property, elicit towing companies to tow my property and my friends' properties, and make slanderous claims, and both to me and online within our community. So I prepared the whole timeline. You kind of touched on each one, so I'll spare the court time in going back over those. As you can see, there's been an ongoing escalation each time I've requested documentation from Mr. Sauerbry that the easements were in fact under the rules that he was trying to enforce, which the rules, to my knowledge, have been made since Mr. Sowerberry became president. For past context, I was part of the HOA as the treasurer prior to this, and I stepped down due to the slanderous claims that Mr. Sowerberry and his wife were making on me and the road maintenance. So I decided to step down and have been pursued in this harassment and slander ever since. This all started actually on September 10th when I approached Mr. Sowerberry about, as the new president, about ongoing issues with people trespassing on my property, both from Cindy Smith, an adjoining property owner, and Ted Wise, who's also here. It was the 10 days later that he tried to flip the table, that I was under, or I was storing vehicles against the rules that he stated as on the turnaround that Cindy Smith had erected, but not against county drawings that were drawn up. She, instead of doing it both on my property and her property, decided to do it all mine. So that I've been trying to work with the county to figure out if that's allowed. And as far as I'm understanding, she was not supposed to do it all on my property. But back to the harassment at hand. On February 25th, I decided to make this anti-harassment suit because it was clear that it was escalating to a point where he was intimidating my family. And with a weapon at this point, it made us fear for our safety at this time as we prepare for court in the Superior Court.
So, Mr. Weatherhead, what's the Superior Court action? Is that what type of action is that?
Yes, Your Honor. It's my case is that ever since I stepped down from the HOA, I'm being selectively enforced upon. The rules have changed in their favor and against mine without the proper voting authority that is supposed to. In Chapter 8 of our CCNRs, it's required that over 50%, 67% actually must vote pro for any changes to the CCNRs.
Okay, so it's a civil lawsuit over issues relating to like HOA operations and things of that nature.
Yes, Your Honor, because there's at least 10 other violations that aren't being pursued. Only mine are.
And then, so your petition names your children, or at least three minors. I believe two of your fiance's last name, one is yours. But it does not name your fiance or your father. And so the most concerning allegation you make obviously concerns an incident with brandishing firearms. And so I'm not saying that you weren't there sort of defeats the petition. But my question is, how does the brandishing the firearm, is that a pattern of behavior that you're saying happened in that interaction, or was that something you heard from your fiance and your father happened, and that was kind of flash straw situation for you? Talk to me a little bit more about that, since those two folks, your fiance and your father, are named in the petition, but it sounds like action against them is sort of the basis of what brought you to. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, Honor. That might have been an oversight on me. I intended to include them in the petition as well. I thought there were separate sections for minors and adults. But Mr. Sowerberry brandishing a weapon is not uncommon. He has it on his hip at all times. In this instant, he was touching it, from what I was told, excessively, and made the statement that he was there for intimidation.
All right.
What was
So,
the other
but
question
you,
here?
okay. So, and is is Miss Silling with you? Is she able to talk, or your father?
She's not, Your Honor. She was available at the previous court date, but has to work today, unfortunately.
So her allegations, though, because I believe the petition just it references, I think it just has brandishing firearm is the language. So the specifically, I was curious, kind of specifically what the allegations were. So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what you're saying is he had a firearm holstered, but was touching it excessively. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any experience where that something like that had happened before?
Yes, Your Honor. He's had it and kind of flaunted his firearm, and a lot of our HOA meetings we meet up to do road cleaning or something, and he's in possession of it and tries to express that intimidation kind of factor.
All right. And then you also indicated that in the petition, let's see, I guess I'll read it to you. Find the right spot. Okay, so yeah, you in your petition you indicate that you allege that Mr. Sauerbry is antagonizing you and your family while making it known he's carrying a pistol, and I think you essentially just said something to that effect here too. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?
Yes, Your Honor. Touching it and just drawing attention to it was the primary concern, and then his verbal expression that he's there for intimidation.
Okay, and did your fiance, did she say that was? Do you recall like the words used? I mean, was that it? That
Yes, Your Honor. That's what she said.
Okay.
She had recorded it, and it's kind of muffled when he says that, but so that's why I didn't include that recording in discovery.
And last question before you'll have a chance again, but before I turn it over to Mr. Sauerbry, so with respect to the kind of the allegations of trespassing, are you saying that Mr. Sauerbry is coming onto your property where it's undisputed that it's your property and that he doesn't have a right to be there because of any kind of easement or any kind of HOA business? Bless you. Or are you saying that is it the case that these are issues that are being disputed and you feel you're correct, and that and so this is not an issue that can otherwise be resolved? He's just coming onto your property.
Yes, Your Honor. So September 10th, when I initially contacted him about himself and others trespassing, and then again on the 25th of September, and where I show that I expressly showed him the map where the road ends. Another exhibit, I can't recall off the top of my head, and I don't have it pulled up, shows that map and where my cameras are located, but I have pictures of him crossing the cameras northerly of where the road ends that he knowingly passed. So I guess a little bit more context. When I had these issues with the trespassers, I put a rope up across the road where the end of the road essentially is, not specifically because of I would have had to put a post in the middle of the roundabout if I did it specifically. but I put a rope up that said no trespassing, so people that didn't know if they were trespassing or not knew once they crossed that rope. It's a physical barrier. I also included in my pictures the other 5 instances where other lot owners have done a physical gate at the end of the roads in the middle of the intersection that is designated for the same kind of ingress egress easements. So Mr. Sourbury crossed that rope and continued northerly onto what would be considered my driveway at that point, but it's built to the standards of the road as well. Multiple times after I proved to him where it stopped.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weatherhead. Again, well, I'll come back to you one way or another. Since it's your petition, you also get the last word. So it is coming back to you. But for now, I'd like to swear in Mr. Sourbury. And before I do that too, there are instances in the statute where the court can hear from non-party witnesses if their testimony would be material, so important and necessary to the decision. I don't know if Ms. McClendon or Mr. Weiss were intending on testifying today or not. It sounds like they were the other ones who were on the respondent side present for the issue on February 25th. And so I would be curious about anything they have to say on what they witnessed there, because that is sort of a bulk of the allegations come from that interaction. So I'll leave that in mind, and I might ask Mr. Sourbury what his preferred preference is for today. But to start with, I'll hear from him directly. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And were you intending for Mr. Weiss and Ms. McClendon to testify?
I was, yes.
Okay. All right.
I guess I would put that kind of back to you, but my thought with having them is then it wouldn't be my word against somebody else's word, but there would be more people that were there at the incident as witnesses.
Yes, and that's the reason I would want to hear from them.
Yes.
Is if it is a allegation and denial, the more information I have, the better. And so yes, I mean I do find that their testimony would be material and necessary. So I'll hear from them if they're willing to testify. But I want to start with you. So you heard me go over that roadmap. You've also heard Mr. Weatherhead's arguments or allegations there. So I am particularly interested in hearing from you on, again, I understand it sounds like there's a lot of disputes going on around the HOA business and property lines and things of that nature. So certainly talk about that. And I know you've uploaded exhibits on that. But the allegations against you, I think is making it known that you've got a firearm. I think that's something that I want to know more about as well. So as you going through this, addressing those allegations as well, because frankly, that's something that's concerning. So if you want to respond to that too, I'd encourage you to address that part. But that said, you heard my roadmap. You heard what Mr. Weatherhead had to say. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. So first, I would just like to say that I truly believe that all of this is related to HOA business, even though all of the area of the HOA, the way that it is written up is so that the roads could be used by all HOA members for the convenience and enjoyment of all HOA members. That being said, myself, my family, we really don't go down any of the other roads for anything. Very rarely do we. So I have no reason to go down any of these other roads other than HOA business. With that said, I would also like to go to a very important part, as you stated, with my firearm. I do have a concealed carry permit, and I do carry almost from the time I wake up till I go back to bed, Your Honor. That being said, after I first moved here to the state, carrying open, not received very well by a lot of persons. So I don't do that anymore. I exclusively have my weapon concealed, and I don't touch it. I don't want people to know that I have it. I don't want to have it, but I do have it, and I do carry it. But I definitely want to make it known that I don't let other people know that I have it. Some of the things that Mr. Weatherhead brought up, that a part of his big concerns is that he's being isolated. He has sent some emails in. He hasn't followed exactly the rules on reporting violations. However, he has in his way, he has reported some of these violations. The board, we have taken a look at them, and other than one that I just revisited with him, definitely don't meet the criteria of a violation. There's one that he just spoke with me Friday, I believe. I believe it was Friday, but within the last few days, Your Honor. And the board, the HOA will need to go and check that one out. Again, I haven't been down there, so I don't even really remember this as being an issue, but it will be something that is checked out.
So that's a violation. Mr. Weatherhead has reported to the HOA that the HOA's may investigate. Okay.
The other ones that he's pointed out, we have looked at, and there was one that he pointed out on me, and I addressed that and fixed it by planting trees. And the other violations that he's reported, we've deemed are not violations. They could potentially be. I could see why he reported them, but after investigation, they're not. He's alleging. Oh, another violation that he mentioned was one of his neighbors having visitors or something coming onto his property. I spoke with him about that, and he put up signs to mark. He has trails out there on his property, so he said he marked the trail better to keep people from going on to Mr. Weatherhead's property. And I haven't had any more reports of that happening.
Okay. Let me ask you to pause, because a question just came to mind that I don't want to forget about, and I think is relevant to what you're saying. Mr. Weatherhead, practically speaking here, so it sounds like you're continuing to engage with the HOA about what you feel are violations and things of that nature. Have you thought about, or can you talk a little bit about the practical limitations and challenges that if you were to get an order against Mr. Sauerbrei, being able to engage with the HOA if he's not allowed to contact you?
Yes, Your Honor. And at risk of going too far into what the rules of the HOA and you making a decision on that. Again, this all started with Mr. Sauerbrei. I'm addressing the issue of people trespassing on my property. We've tried signs, and my role. Well,
I'm gonna come back to you about kind of the broader question, but that question specifically, are you saying you don't want him to contact you anymore?
Yes,
because
Your Honor,
it sounds like the concern that I'm hearing is if he is in HOA leadership and you are engaging with the HOA and resolving some disputes, sounds like in a different court or through a lawsuit, that's not something that Mr. Sauerbrei would be able to engage with you on anymore.
Correct, Your Honor. Let me redirect back to your question. Before this, when I was on the HOA, many of the members had expressed interest in dissolving the HOA completely, as its sole purpose, as Mr. Sauerbrei, when he was previous president, had stated, was to maintain a portion of road that is now paved, and we no longer maintain that. So I started a petition, first I got verbal confirmation from at least 50% of the members in our community that they would like to dissolve the HOA. Unfortunately, we have to have 67% because it's dissolving the HOA. But part of that petition was to relieve Mr. Sauerbrei of his duties as the president, and we only need 50% votes for that, and I got that verbally, and it's out to vote right now as we speak. So as soon as those votes get returned, I plan to call a special meeting that relieves Mr. Sauerbrei from his duties as the president of the HOA.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious if that's something you thought about, and it sounds like you have. Okay, I wanted to address that before we got too much.
HOAs are the cause of more problems in society than women wearing the same outfit. It's that bad.
Further. Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Weatherhead. Okay, back to you, Mr. Sauerbrei. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were talking about the issues with Mr. Weatherhead indicating other folks had been coming onto his property. If I could kind of direct you towards, one thing I'm not really looking at necessarily here is unequal enforcement of HOA rules. It sounds like that's something that is being addressed through perhaps a lawsuit. One of the things, though, I'm looking at is the allegations that Mr. Weatherhead's made that you are coming onto his property where it's either undisputed that it's his property or that HOA doesn't necessarily have any business to be there. So can you talk a little bit about those allegations?
So I believe there was, because like I said, he called me Friday. So we spoke about this again on Friday. I believe there was two. I think best I can remember, there was one time. He said there was two. I'm not going to argue. Maybe it was a second time that I went actually past where the easement is, even though the easement's in argument, that I went past the easement. And this was quite a while back last year, before I thought that the road went on past there. And I was down there, and even that is on a property line where I was walking. And then I came back and I actually found the marker. And since I found that marker, I haven't went back there in that area because I have no reason to go back there. I have been in this area that he's disputing, even though I'm sure it's not in dispute. I've talked to Public Works and everything else, but I have been in that area. But other than the one time before I found the actual survey marker and knew it for sure where it was, I did go back there.
Okay. Prior to finding that marker.
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Is that around the September 20th time he's talking about?
Yes.
Around that?
It might have even been prior to that, but around that point. All right. It just seems that he's talking about this rope that he put up, and he put a no trespassing sign on it, but he's put that up, and it's still in the middle of the easement.
Okay.
So it's not. That's, I believe, what you're calling the disputed area.
Okay, thank you. Talk to me a little bit about the February 25th incident. And this is the one where Mr. Weatherhead is indicating there was a confrontation with his fiance and his father, and that the pistol was used, or the weapon was used, in an intimidating manner. So this is your chance to kind of respond to that part of it.
Yes, sir. So on that day, we had the meeting, the three of us went out there. I truly was hoping that Neil would be able to come, or that he would. And even though he said he had prior, I mean, it's all a volunteer thing. And so we didn't postpone it. We just went ahead and had it. It's been going on since September. So the first thing the three of us did was.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I have in my notes, and now I can't remember if this is actually in your exhibit or not, that your email on February 19th indicating there was going to be a hearing on the 25th. Did you indicate that you would be on his property for that violation dispute?
It was in the location time, because I gave him date, time, and location.
Okay. Do you remember the location? Was it going to be
End of Starflower, I believe is what I put in the email.
End of Starflower. Okay.
Turnabout at the end of Starflower.
Okay. All right. And that end of Starflower, that's this disputed easement area. Is that right?
That's the area he's disputing. Yes, sir.
All right. Go ahead.
So the three of us got down there. The first thing that I did is I wanted to show them where the easement, which is there's a surveyed marker, and then 50 feet from that, it's 50, whatever it is, 50.8, whatever it is. So we measured that out, and that gets you to the center of the road on a certain azimuth. We don't have certified surveyor tools, but I believe the three of us believe that we would be close enough that it would be within a reasonable amount of distance. So we measured it out, and we even marked it 5 degrees each way so that we could have a variant, or a buffer. Then from there we measured out the 150. Everything that was parked there was at 80 feet. So way, even if our equipment wasn't exact, way within the 150-foot easement. So after we measured everything out and marked it and took a look, so we wrote all that down, and we were in agreement that yes, all of this stuff is within the easement, within the roadway, blocking the roadway. So we took all that down into the violations thing. We were getting ready to leave whenever his fiance came in a like a little side-by-side deal, and then another car came in with her that I had never, if I had, I didn't recognize the man, Mr. Weatherhead, as Mr. Weatherhead Sr. So his fiance was speaking to us, talking to us. Not sure that the conversation really matters, but she was just asking us why we were bothering Mr. Weatherhead, and I was just trying to explain that we really didn't want to have to do this, but it was blocking the road, things like that. And then I don't remember exactly how, if I had asked who that was, and she said it was his dad, and I said he was still in his vehicle at the time. I believe his window was down, but he was still in his vehicle. And I asked if he was a property owner of the lot there. And his fiance said, no, he's not. And I said, well, I was asking him. I wanted him to give me a response. So I walked over there toward his vehicle, and asked again. And then he got out of his car, kind of stormed over toward me, and started saying, hey, you're trespassing. You need to get out of here. I wasn't really scared, but I believe that Ariel was nervous. That's my words, but she definitely took off and went to her van. I said, I was like, just calm down. We're leaving. We're done already. Anyways, we're leaving. And I went and got to my truck, I started it up, and then I seen Ariel in front of me, parked in her, just looking like she didn't know what she was going to do. Because you might be able to turn around. There's like a turn out it's basically one-way road and there's turnouts. So there's kind of a little turnout where she was parked, but be somewhat difficult to turn around. And I got out of my truck and I said, do you want to come down here and turn around? And she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, come on. And I stayed out of my truck, just waited for her to get turned around. Once she got turned around and left, I got back in my truck, pulled out, waited for Ted, for Mr. Weezy to get in his truck, and then we just kind of convoyed out of there.
Okay. Specifically, can you address the allegation that you brandished a firearm and expressed that you were doing so to intimidate them?
I definitely deny that 100%. I mean, as I stated before, I don't lean on my pistol, my gun. I don't touch it. I don't fidget with it. I don't want anybody to know that I have it. And also, that brings me back. I never said that I was there to intimidate anybody. I believe
That's
I never said that. Never said anything along those lines, because that isn't why I was there. That isn't why I've done any of this, Your Honor. I honestly wish I didn't have to do this. I took this role on to try to help the HOA out and get it back up and moving again. It's all volunteer. I don't get paid for any of this. I have other stuff that I could do.
all right. Thank you. All right. Who I'd like to hear from next is Ariel McClendon and Ted. Is it Weesey, not Weiss?
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
Sorry. I see you both on Zoom.
Hello.
And now you've come off mute. Great. All right. Are the two of you able to activate your cameras?
Yes, I'll get them here.
All right. And looks like Miss McClendon was able to do that first.
Yeah.
And so I'll start with her. All right, Miss McClendon, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right. So as I said earlier, neither you or Mr. Weissy are Ms. Smith. Yeah, thank you. Are parties to this requested order, but I do find that your testimony is material and necessary to the decision, specifically because of your presence at one of the instances here where there's an allegation that the respondent, Mr. Sauerbrei, brandished a weapon and did so in a way that was meant to intimidate folks. So you were there. You're under oath. If you want to talk about that instance, I'd welcome your testimony.
So we had showed up at this meeting that we had planned that was at Neil's request. And we had kind of just discussed everything, and I had not actually seen the area in question until that day. And so that was partially why we were there also, because I didn't really want to make a decision as a board member based on something that I hadn't actually seen. And we were there, and we had just finished up, and two vehicles rolled up very, very fast. And as we were leaving, and Neil's fiance approached us and kind of like accosted us and was kind of like accusing us, like, why are you here? What are you doing? And I remember saying like we were kind of just on our way out. But she kept engaging with us and wanting to talk to us. So the kind of sound that they were trying to just get us to leave isn't really accurate, at least as far as I was there, because like she was continuing to engage with us. And it kind of felt like they were there to have a confrontation with us. And they were recording us and just overall just kind of trying to, because like we were on our way out and we were trying to leave. And Neil's father parked forward in front of all of the vehicles that were parked in the turnabout, and I was parked further back. because I was expecting to be able to use the turnabout to turn around. And so on my way out, because I just got to a point where they were continuing to engage with us and just kind of, it just felt like they were trying to cause a confrontation. It just felt like they were trying to get recordings of us. And they were just trying to, it was just not, it didn't feel like they were just trying to get us to leave. It just felt like they were trying to get something out of it. So I was uncomfortable because they were recording us and because Neil's father was just very, quietly standing there, or like in his car. It was just very odd, especially because we were on our way out and we were about to leave, and that is how I would have preferred it. I didn't really want to interact with anyone, especially not the person who had actually requested the meeting. So I went to my car to turn around, but then realized that I didn't really have enough room to turn around because they had placed themselves and their vehicles in a way such that it was kind of hard for me to do so. So I looked at Wilbur since he was further up in a kind of am I good to turn around? Because it felt like they were making it harder for us to leave. And at no point in this interaction did Wilbur make his gun visible or brandish it or anything like that. And then I just turned around and I left. But
did Wilbur say anything that you recall that could be interpreted as "I'm here to intimidate"?
Not at all.
Okay.
It was the opposite. It was mostly Neil's fiance kind of just saying all sorts of stuff, and Wilbur just kind of calmly being like, no, that's not really what's going on. This is what's going on. And him very calmly trying to explain, but he didn't really say a whole lot, honestly. And we were kind of just trying to get out of there.
All right.
But
You didn't talk about why you were there.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McClendon. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Weesey next. And so you heard there, Ms. McClendon sort of laid out why you were there. I think Mr. Sauerbrei did as well. And so, if you have anything to add, specifically too, from your point of view, I'm curious about if you observed anything that could be interpreted as brandishing a weapon or, doing anything intended to intimidate Mr. Weatherhead's fiance or father in that instance. So that's really what I'm looking for here as well. I understand that the reasons for being there. I think we've gone over that. I'm more concerned about behavior once everyone was there. So with that in mind, sir, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So like Ariel and Wilbur both stated, is why we were there. I was in the back watching everything take place as we were getting ready to leave, and by no means did Wilbur ever brandish his weapon or try to intimidate. When we were talking with everyone, I actually remember thinking to myself how calm and collected Wilbur was in a situation that was very kind of adrenaline filled because people were upset. And there was no intimidation factor, period. There's no brandishing a weapon, no hands on a weapon. I know Wilbur carries because, I'm always conscious of who I'm around in my area. But in the whole time I've ever been a neighbor with Wilbur, it's never been an issue, period.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weesey.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Weatherhead, I'll turn it back to you. This is your petition.
Ted makes sense to me. I don't know. I'm just judging on his demeanor, but he doesn't seem like he's hiding anything.
And so you get the last word, and you've had the benefit now of some testimony here. And so again, I think you've probably gathered what I'm really focusing in here on is allegations of Mr. Sauerbrey's behavior when acting on HOA business, to the extent you've alleged that behavior includes drawing attention to his pistol and in trying to intimidate folks. That's really where I'm focusing in on through this testimony. I know you weren't there on this February 25th instance, but I would also ask if that was a part of a larger pattern or practice. You've indicated, I think, in your testimony earlier, so I know you've done this, but I want to give you a few moments to just say again, now that you've heard from folks, talk about anything you've witnessed as far as brandishing a weapon or comments from Mr. Sauerbrey indicating he's there to intimidate folks as part of, well, in any event, but sounds like as part of his duties as a HOA member or president here. So if you could talk about those instances specifically, I'll give you a few more moments to wrap up and make a decision.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to point out a couple inconsistencies to start off. First off, being with Ariel's testimony that she was scared initially, yet when she decided to leave, she was the closest to the exit of the property, yet she chose to drive all the way past everybody to turn around, and there's a turnaround where she was parked that I turn my dually around consistently in, so there's plenty of room and a hammerhead about 100 feet just south of that. So that's a little bit inconsistent to her being scared to go towards them, yet drive right past and through them at that point. I'd also like to point out that Wilbur made a written testimony that he submitted to you, stating that he never carries his pistol while conducting HOA business, yet today he just agreed that he was carrying it, but he didn't even touch it or anything. Obviously, both my father and my fiance knew that he had it, so if he was concealing it, he wasn't doing a very good job of it, and it's our understanding that that was on purpose. I would also like to point out the emails that I have submitted, which is all the emails and correspondence with the HOA since September, has shown a clear history of me being cooperative. Wilbur Sauerbrey and I came to an agreement even back in September that I would move the rope further down as far as I could towards the property line, and that was agreed upon until several months later he decided to escalate it again. And this leads to my point that he has a history of escalation that started with the rope was just in the wrong spot, to my garbage cans were out too long, to I was conducting business without permission, yet I had permission from the previous HOA board, yet he was trying to revoke it without cause. And when I requested permission for business activity, he said it wasn't good enough based on rules that they had just enacted without proper voting by the members of the board. He tried to enforce fines that were also not voted upon by members of the board as per the CCNRs, and hired a towing company to tow my things away. Again, not voted upon by the CCNRs. And this instance that's in question, whether he thinks he was showing his pistol or not, he was, and it was evident that he was carrying. And I believe my dad and fiance that they heard him say that he was there for harassment, and I could make that out from the video that my fiance had, but I could see the how somebody that hasn't met Wilbur might not be able to make that out with how shuffled it was, because my fiance was walking at the time that it was said. So in conclusion, I did reach out to Mr. Sauerbrey this weekend in an attempt to not waste the court's time and
No woman will stay married to him. Don't do it, my man. Neil, brother, there is no way a woman will stay attracted to you. None.
To come to yet another agreement that I would move the vehicles out of the
You're not a bad guy. You're not a bad looking guy. You're a wuss. It doesn't work.
what they're claiming is an easement while we litigate this further in a civil matter. Yet they refuse to. And
Absolutely.
immediately after our last hearing, his wife went straight to Facebook, was slandering me. And again, last night or the day before, another member of the community was slandering me based on my petition that to just do away with the HOA completely. So this continues to escalate, and I don't want it to get to a point where he shows up on my property with a weapon, because I also conceal carry, and I don't want that situation where I feel threatened by him and have to act accordingly. And I don't want to put my family or
Neil, no one's worried about the shootout at the OK Corral here. Nobody. Stop it. Stop it. Nobody thinks he's going to pull, and nobody thinks you're going to respond. That's to both your credits.
my kids in that situation either. So the request for this anti-harassment is to give me time so he can't continue to contact me, continue to threaten to tow my vehicles or place undue fines and fees on me that that kind of hinders my
That wouldn't be good. But if he did the old banana in the tailpipe, that wouldn't be bad.
progress towards finding a solution to these problems that we're having.
All right.
Shut down his car and see if he can figure it out, because he can't.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherhead. So I'm going to deny the petition for protection order. The reason being, generally speaking, I think that the allegations against Mr. Sauerbrei are grounded in, I think, some issues with HOA enforcement, inconsistent allegations of maybe some procedural unfairness, unequal treatment, things of that nature, that are just simply not, this is not the forum for that. This is an anti-harassment protection order, which may carry criminal consequences if violated. You know, for these, it's there needs to be more than kind of disputes over operation of an HOA and Mr. Sauerbrei that he's gone on to Mr. Weatherhead's property trespassing. It sounds like there may have been an instance or two where Mr. Sauerbrei may have gone on to your property. I don't know if there's enough evidence here that was intentional and part of a larger pattern of practice of knowingly going onto your property without, and I understand this is disputed, but sort of without conducting HOA business or into an area that the HOA believes there's an easement and they have a right to be there. It sounds like a lot of the allegations around trespassing and around things like spray painting and things of that nature and taking pictures is a dispute over whether the HOA and Mr. Sauerbrei in particular has a reason or authorization to be there. And with that dispute in mind, that this is not the forum for that. Really, what I'm focused on is whether or not there's been a showing that Mr. Sauerbrei is engaging in behavior with a firearm intended to intimidate you, Mr. Weatherhead, and your family in carrying out some of those duties. And at this point, I don't think, Mr. Weatherhead, you've met your burden of proof to show it's more likely than not that Mr. Sauerbrei's actions here rise to the level of intimidating or creating a hostile environment based on, it sounds like everyone knows, he's somebody who has a concealed carry pistol license and does carry. That by itself isn't going to create an environment that gets a protection order. You've you've
Yes.
lodged allegations of him excessively touching it, maybe doing so when things are getting heated. But there's also been testimony to the contrary. And so I'm not in a position to say it's more likely than not that Mr. Sauerbrei is engaging that kind of behavior that necessitates a protection order. So, on that, I don't find that there's been any knowing and willful course of conduct without a legitimate or lawful purpose at this point that creates harassing behavior causing substantial emotional distress. I think most of these issues are being maybe worked out in a different legal forum than this, but I don't find there's enough here for any kind of anti-harassment protection order. Do you have any questions, Mr. Weatherhead?
No, Your Honor. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, sir. You're free to go. Thank you to the witnesses who are here today. You're all free to go. And Mr. Sauerbrei as well. You are free to go. I believe, is there a temporary order in this case? There was not.
Your Honor.
Okay. Then
Oh
that
my
one, nothing to
God.
rescind there. So the order simply won't go into effect. So there's no protection.
Your Honor, one question, is there a point where if this continues, there's some kind of, what would I do? Would it be a civil?
There's a point where I crawl off this bench, come over there and smack you upside the head, and we're nearing it right now. You see why I'm not on the bench?
Issue.
Everyone is welcome to file protection orders. That process is outlined in some of the materials you were served. And so again, you're welcome to file a petition as well. It sounds like maybe some of these issues are being worked out in court, but yeah, no, that you're able to do exactly what he did. Everyone and anyone can file a petition, and then a judge would take a look at it.
But for me, it would be more of just a civil case, not something like this, probably. I wouldn't be afraid of him.
It wouldn't be effing anything. It would be nothing. Here's some free advice from a civil attorney. Shut up and move on. There's nothing here. Find something better to focus on. It's not that big of a deal. You're not a bad person, but I say this with authority out of love to help you.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Not want to.
I can't give you legal advice on what to do. I can tell you this is
And it's wasted your time. Stop it.
available as a forum for you. Resolving property disputes, that's over in Superior Court. But yeah,
Or if somebody continually accusing me of harassment and then it being found that it's not real. That's more of the civil matter.
well, that is something you need to talk to a lawyer about. Yeah. So, all right. All right. Thank you all for being here.
Appreciate it.
The lawyer will tell you to go away. Oh, good Lord. That was fun. They always are fun. They're always infuriating. Ultimately, they just accused this guy of threatening him with a weapon, and he didn't. It's as simple as that. And it is. It was simps who got pushed into a fight by their ladies. But that always is the case. I'm not blaming women for that. That's nature. That's life. Sometimes you got to say, woman, no. No. This one is not worth fighting about. Go pout if you want to, but that's the way it's going to be. You see why I'm not married? And I love it. I love it. Thank you all for coming out. I will see you soon. I think I'm going to do another one because I have so much good stuff from Zach. So maybe at 7. Talk to you soon.